Hi there. I'm Zain. I identify as a Desi trans Muslim queer femme brown guy. I wanted to make a video about how it is to be living at home during my own transition process. Because I feel like there aren't enough videos talking about brown, gender nonconforming, or trans guys living at home during the whole process of transition and what that feels like. And also because, in general, there aren't really like brown men in the media talking about their transition as prominently. And so I wanted to create an alternative form of media. So a little bit about myself. I'm a poet. I'm an artist. I live in Vancouver. And I'm working a lot right now, but I'm also working towards making art more and more my life, because art is what is like keeps me alive and keeps me going. And I also do a lot of youth engagement work around like basically hanging out with youth and just talking about violence and anti-homophobia, anti-transphobia, and trying to connect with teachers and just networking and building workshops and stuff like that. So that's what I do. And I find it really hard here to find folks to really connect with, because I feel like my identity is so intersectional. I grew up, so I've lived in Burnaby my whole life. My mom is from Kenya, my dad is from Tanzania, and I'm Muslim, and so I grew up a Somali Muslim. And I don't see, it's hard to find those alternative forms of media that I actually feel like, oh, hey, I see myself in you or whatever. And right now I think it's really amazing because there's Janet Mock, for example, who is, just released her book, Redefining Realness. And I find it really amazing to be alive right now, because 5 years ago or just 8 years ago when I was in high school, I didn't have, I couldn't name people who I could identify with because I didn't know people. And now I feel like, wow, I can hold a book in my hand and really connect with someone's lived experience. When I first heard the word transgender, I was 18 years old. And when I first heard the word, I felt it was a moment where I actually felt like something fit with me and I could identify with that word. But I'm also constantly searching for words in the languages of my ancestors. So in Urdu, Hindi, Kutchi, Swahili, Gujarati, I'm looking for words that, my ancestral roots identified themselves with in their own gender expression. So constantly searching for those as well. I'm also a student, and I live at home right now. So living at home during the whole process of my transition so far has been super difficult. I've identified as a guy almost my whole life, I would say. And when I started using he, him, and his pronouns about, I would say a year and a half ago, so I started living using he, him, and his pronouns about a year and a half ago, and I still use them in most of my workplaces. I identify as a guy always, and it's interesting because at home I feel like my my family still socializes me very differently. And I think it's difficult because there is a language barrier. English is not the way my parents or my grandparents or generations before me understand things, like the way I grew up. And so for them, it's very, it's very difficult, it's very hard to understand, which I think, which makes sense to me. My mom is really awesome. She's super supportive. Transphobic shit and sexist shit happens all the time. Um, but despite that, I feel like my mom really gets it. I'm lucky to have her in my life. I feel like for most of my life, I was raised by strong brown women. And I feel like that's such a huge part of where I am now in the journey of my transition, because the women who are in my life, like my nanny, like my grandparents, my grandmothers, my aunties, my mom, they all really taught me how to like express my feelings, just in healthy ways, and just in general never shamed me for like crying. I've been shamed for crying by other people in my family, but mostly cisgendered brown men in my family has shamed me for crying. But like the women who raised me really taught me how to love myself. And same with the strong women I have in my life right now, like my chosen family, my big sister has taught me a lot about self-love. And I think that really says something, because like I feel like I wouldn't be where I am without those women being in my life. They've been such a strong reason why I am where I am, and like the lessons I've learned in my transition journey. I'm just kind of rambling now, but one of the things that I find sometimes is that my trans identity gets centered. So, and here where I live, a lot of people know about my trans status because I've lived here my whole life, and that's a whole other like complicated situation. But I often feel like people center my trans experience, and that really bothers me because I feel like I am so many other things. Like I'm an artist, I'm a poet, like I'm a writer, like I'm a grassroots organizer, like I'm so many other things. And I really don't want parts of my identity to become centered. I want people to really understand intersectionality and what that looks like, and that like examining my privileges and the oppressions that I face are all like really important in seeing where I'm at in my journey at this point in my life. And just really understanding that, getting people to acknowledge that. And I think sometimes for me, for my experience, sometimes people center like the fact that I'm getting my chest reconstructive surgery in a few months. I feel like that's really centered right now, but I also feel like the reason it's centered is because I'm super excited for it, and it's like a huge thing that's gonna be like amazing. But there are so many amazing things, not just I feel like physical surgical aspects of my journey, but also the fact that like I feel like here in the city there's a really strong community of queer and trans folks of color, and two-spirit folks who really connect well with each other. And even though the community is small, I feel like it's starting to grow. And I think the reason that there's a strong community is because we're able to give each other a lot of room to listen to each other's stories, and also like support each other's needs, and also be vulnerable in front of each other, and feel what we need to. Yeah, so living at home is it's really complicated. I feel like I live in a really toxic environment, and, it gets really negative and hard sometimes. And so instead of focusing on the really hard parts, I wanted to talk about some things I do to help myself when I know that days are really stressful. So one of the things that I do for self-care, living with my family, is that I keep a table near my bed of things that make me feel good. So for example, I keep my sketchbook and my markers there. I keep my film camera there because I love making films. And I keep some books, and I keep things that remind me that I can get through this toxicness and it won't last forever. And I think it's hard because I'm 23 years old and I feel like I'm at a point where I'm ready to move out and everything. I just don't have the finances right now because I'm saving up for my surgery. But I think very soon it will come, and just like having people to be able to talk to, really working on self-loving with chosen family, as well as supporting each other, and like having somewhere to crash if things are really difficult. I know that's helped me several times, especially since I recently came out to my parents, which is a whole other thing. But I'll leave that for another video. Yeah, so I just wanted to connect with more Desi brown queer folks or trans folks who maybe are on the web or long distance, or, you know, I'd love to connect with you. So feel free to follow me on Twitter at Zane Soulshine. I'll put it below. And I also have my website called alwaysweavingwords.tumblr.com, which I'll also write down below, that documents parts of my transition, and other stuff like singing and poetry and stuff. So yeah, let me know if starting this vlog is something that you think is cool or whatever. Maybe we can chat about doing segments together. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Take care of yourselves. I look forward to connecting with you.